Okay, welcome everyone to another edition of the Voicebot Webinar Education Series. You can find our previous webinars at voicebot.ai/webinars. We have several up there already, everything from voice assistant SEO and marketer adoption of voice assistants to how to work with Bixby. I've been hearing some great feedback on the series, and today I think we have another strong addition to the educational materials. Before we get started, for those of you not familiar with Zoom, it has a Q&A feature down at the bottom of your window there. You can use the chat feature as well, but for the questions, please use the Q&A feature. That's what we're going to draw from first. One of the things we'll be doing is gathering questions throughout the presentation today. And at the end, we're going to reserve some time for our guests to answer some of those questions live in real time. So please use that liberally. I will let you know that this webinar will be recorded. So in a couple of days, this will be available for you to watch back and to refer back to. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just focus on the presentation as it is, and we'll make everything available to you afterwards. So today's presenter is Gridspace, I think, as you know, because you signed up for this. We're going to learn a lot about applying AI to mining conversation recordings as a real-time asset. And so I'm pretty excited about hearing more about this today. We have with us the co-founder and CEO of Gridspace, Evan McMillan, and Brett Paulson, who is the head of sales and marketing. We're going to not only talk a little bit about the company, but they're going to conduct a product demo as well, talk about some of the implementations. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Evan McMillan, the CEO and co-founder of Gridspace, to get us kicked off. Evan?
Thanks so much, Brett, and thank you for making Voicebot happen in 2019. It feels like we have a car and driver for our budding automotive industry. So thanks so much for putting this together.
No problem.
We have a great show for everyone today. We're going to talk a little bit about how we think about deploying conversational agents and how conversational agents are more than just the Siri and Alexa experiences you've had in your home. They can do a lot more behind the scenes as well. I want to talk a little bit about how we got started with Gridspace. Do you want to go one slide forward? And one more slide. Great. So just want to welcome everybody on behalf of Gridspace. More people are hearing about us this year than in past years. So we're kind of coming out of the cave and excited to tell people about all the work we're doing. We're a voice process automation company. So we power some of the world's largest contact centers, trading desks, and provide real-time data from human conversations to data science teams. And we're doing this in service of businesses, helping businesses make customer experiences better, and helping those businesses own customers have more seamless voice-based interactions with agents. The company got going about 6 years ago. We began as a collaboration with SRI. SRI was the lab behind Nuance Communications and Siri. And we came at the problem of making really natural conversational agents a little differently. Let's go one more slide forward. And Brett's going to get into the details in the presentation today on this point, but a lot of people didn't realize how the first conversational agents came to be. They were really software programs that had rules for how to respond and when to respond, and we thought that approach wasn't the only approach that could move things forward. We thought that maybe if you could look at all the conversations and all the conversations that people were actually having with other people, a new way of delivering conversational agents might be possible. So we started work on Gridspace, took our product to production a few years ago, and have been having a lot of success. One more slide forward. So what does it look like when you're seeing all the conversations? And when you can see all the conversations, you can begin to do things that a person or even teams of people couldn't possibly do. While people are really, really great at understanding conversations with a single other person, they're really, really bad at understanding lots of conversations, especially lots of conversations happening at the same time. And we had a large customer last year, a Fortune 500 bank, experience what's possible when you have software sort of helping you understand conversations in a pretty meaningful way. So last year, I don't know if folks in the audience heard about the Coinbase double charge incidents, but long story short, Coinbase was double charging everybody that was making deposits at Coinbase. And these double charges were showing up on folks' statements. And one of the Gridspace powered contact centers started seeing this surge in customers calling about this double charge. And a normal contact center that didn't have Gridspace in the media path probably wouldn't have caught this until it was front page news. They would have seen it, well after the fact, because the traditional review process involved people going back into the recordings, listening to the recordings, maybe sampling the number of times somebody said this or that, and then generating a report and then pushing that report back up to a management team. But in the Gridspace powered contact center world, we were able to quantify the number of folks talking about this specific double charge event immediately and get that feedback to the decision makers, who could then provide the procedures to the agents to mitigate the situation. And this is the kind of back office bot that is happening now. And I think it's going to happen even more. And these kinds of bots are really the building block bots for what folks really want, or at least at Gridspace, we think folks really want, true, really natural, multi-turn conversational agents. So one slide forward. So really lucky today, Brett's going to show us both these back office and front office bots, and tell you a little bit more about the 3 ingredients businesses need to bring both kinds of bots to life. So without further ado, please welcome Brett Paulson, Head of Sales and Marketing at Gridspace.
Thank you, Evan, very much. And thank you guys for joining the webcast today. Hopefully, I will share with you in about 5 minutes the ingredients for success and show a few demos, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. And we'd love to get your thoughts. And we do webinars not only to help you understand where we're going, but also understand where you're coming from and your ideas also. So I just wanted to start off with the view that we have on conversation. So why do we focus on the contact center, and why is it important? Well, when we see it, just the number of minutes and the conversations that happen along with the users, it's a form where customers will continue to call and minutes will continue to increase. So when we see it, in 2009, when Siri was just starting to get adoption, we can see the number of active users they had, but at banks, those active users are just 40 to 100x that, not only in users, but also in minutes. So when we view conversations, so many conversations are happening in the call center, and our view is that they'll continue happening and increasing. So our view is that as things go digital, we can also bring the voice path more digital too, and keep customers engaged within the voice channel, but do it in a more affordable way. And so the question is this voice channel important? Well, at the end of the day, especially in financial services, the voice channel is used all the time. And it's something where when money is at stake or reservations at stake on an airline, you definitely want to go in and use the voice pass. So if you look at it, here are just some metrics of what we've seen and what the industry has seen. That 71% of customers will end relationships because of poor customer service. And these things are, could be an agent having a bad day. It could just be a bank's policy. So really being able to get down into each customer conversation, but do it in a way where the computer is helping you and machines are helping you, because you can't have a QA person, a manager per agent. A lot of the systems are, legacy systems are disliked. I'm going to show you our automated agent and the call flow through that. We believe it's the next generation of moving from IVR to really having a conversation with somebody who you believe is an agent, but they are in the background helping you. And that's a standard way of helping. So we know that level from that automated agent, that level of help is going to be consistent across the call center. And also it's still the most used channel for customer service. And like I was mentioning before, even our view is that, yes, you want customers to go more digital, use the apps, use chat, but we believe that with automated agents in the future, that you'll be able to deliver the same service costs that you do in these other channels within the voice channel. And then just look at the business pains right now too in the contact center. So it is really, really, really hard to operate call centers. Number one, they're very, very expensive. Retaining agents is very, very hard too. I like this. If you look at it, it's interesting. If you look at agent churn along with how many people in Phoenix are employed, they hire 2% of the city every year. We have a customer that now that Amazon has their delivery, and to become a delivery agent for Amazon is actually a higher paying job than working in a call center. So there's a lot of business pains in ensuring that the call center can continue in the future. But at the same time, as you look at it, customer churn can happen if they're unhappy. So, having this workforce that's churning, going to do other opportunities, there's a risk of making mistakes. So not only having bots passively manage these calls and passively understand what's going on, like Evan was talking about for that Bitcoin example, but then also having active agents, automated agents come in and really help with answering and dealing with workflow that's not complicated, but still a high, not succeeding. You can have a customer that's unhappy with the success and support of those calls. So I'm going to show you a few demos real fast. One's going to be, I'm going to go into it now. So we have a simulated call center here. So this is our call center where we have tons of real-time calls happening. And we call this our data lake of calls, not only calls that have happened, but calls that have happened in the past. I'm going to actually just start a few calls here. So I'm going to click into one of these, and we'll be able to see a live call happen and see the live transcription.
It's for my life insurance policy, but I can't find any way to do that online. Is there any way we can do it over the phone?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is a process that is best handled in person. It is something with a lot of privacy information. We actually have a notary on hand. So as far as changing beneficiaries or your life insurance goes, it is handled in person. We have many offices throughout the United States, so there should be one nearest you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we believe that number one is that you have to have a system that can handle thousands, 30,000 plus calls in parallel, and be able to really get in there and transcribe not only the words, but emotion and then start to build all that rich content on every single call. Because when you have that data lake, it's possible to go out and do passive things, which I will show, but then also you can start to build automated agents from these flows. But then also, how does the automated agent, how do you know it's working well? And how do you know that that quality is high? Well, it goes back to the data lake. It goes back to having every single conversation in your contact center live, being transcribed and pulling insight. So let me go to a dashboard now to, we can see, actually I'll pull down on one of these calls. So, there's thousands of things we look for on calls, but this shows you the emotional component of it. It shows you the agent etiquette, how complex the call was, how polite they were. So there's a lot of metadata and a lot of data that we pull for each call. But then what we can go is start to see, sorry about that, we can start to go see what's happening across the contact center. So let's see today, or the last 30 days I have this set up, we see the total calls in our contact center, but now we have some frustrated customers. So now I can go in and really look and see, oh, wow, okay, there's some callers with negative sentiments or negative emotion that seem to be annoyed. So now I can go back and actually look into these calls. So I can click here.
I'm frustrated because I don't know if it got lost in the mail or if it...
So this is all possible because we collect all this information and we're able to run analytics on it. So I'm not going to go through every feature, but imagine now we can have bots that do auto QA. So we can say, okay, well, since all these calls are coming in real time, we're seeing them. Now we can fill out QA forms. We can tell you how the emotion components are. We can tell you how frustrated your customers are at times. We can tell you about outages and so forth. So these are things not only that you've told us to look for, or we're looking for on your behalf, but we're also finding trends too across the contact center. So now that we have this rich data, we can go off and start building automated agents. So I'm going to do a demo now and call into our call center. And I'm going to speak to a nice agent called Grace. And I want you to listen to a few things. One is that you'll hear Grace. We work a lot on synthesis and making sure the voice sounds really human, number one. Two is what Evan talked about. It's not rules-based. So we use advanced machine learning. So we created a dialogue system. So it's not, she's not going to walk us through a binary tree of how to get there. When I ask for something like I need a new debit card, it's going to feel like more like a conversation. And also, when you hear her working, she is going to be connecting to the back end of our bank. So we have a Gridspace bank, which is a real banking front end, back end that she's working through to authenticate me and so forth. If you want to see more of this demo, we also have a video. It's called Gridspace Grace. But let me run through this, and maybe I'll do about a minute or so of interacting, and we'll go from there.
Card services, this is Grace.
Hello, I need a new debit card. I lost mine.
How can I help you today?
Oh, I lost my debit card.
I'm sorry to hear you need a new card. I'd be more than happy to help you get a new one. Does that sound good?
Yes, please.
Before I can help you with that, I'll have to authenticate you, okay?
No problem.
May I ask who I'm talking with first and last name, please?
Yeah, my name is Christopher Johnson.
All right, let me check that information you gave me. Okay, Mr. Johnson, just looking you up. Okay, I just checked that info you gave me. All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. You are authenticated. Is this your classic account?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if I would have went on, she would have verified some more information, verified my address from the bank's back end, and she would be able to handle that whole interaction. So our whole goal is to use the rich information that we're monitoring and go out and not only build passive analytics, but then start helping go out and build automated agents and starting taking over some of those workflows where customers can get angry if they don't speak to somebody quickly. If they get disconnected, Grace can call back and really raise that level of customer service where you can talk to somebody, not wait in a queue, and have a great experience. So when we look at it, we want to provide this great experience in the voice channel. So that's what we were talking about before, where we believe that minutes are going to continue to increase if we can provide these rich services in the voice channel, where we can free up the agents to solve very, very difficult, subjective type things, and really allow our automated agents to go out and solve problems for customers in a very efficient way, and in a way where you don't have to be in queue, because we can have thousands and thousands of these agents working at once. So let me go back. So we went through the demos. I want to share a few more things with a lot of questions we get about enter full screen here, about some of the other work we're doing. So, we believe that to build these networks out, you need to have the infrastructure, you need to have all the phone calls coming in, the analytics, along with the ability to build these new bots. We're calling them automated agents, and those are all the components that are needed. So there's some other unique things that we're doing too. So, getting the phone calls into the system can be something that in the past has been problematic, but we're really working with the media companies out there. So we're working with Amazon Connect, we're working with Twilio, really to make the Gridspace integration very, very easy to do. So we want to be able to not only provide these services, but enable you or any contact center to quickly be able to, with a push of a button, be able to start using Gridspace. So when we look at this problem, we're solving it from all angles. We want to be able to handle thousands and thousands of calls at once, which, as I'm talking right now, we're probably are processing 25 to 30,000 calls in parallel right now. Today, we'll have processed over 600,000 calls. We want to be able to make it easy to do that. We want to give you guys the tools to be able to figure out how your contact center is doing today, from holistically to figure out what automated agents flows make the most sense. So we look at this as, when we go in with our customers, it's a partnership, really going in there to help showing current view of contact center and what the future view of the contact center can be. So I won't go into any more detail here, but let me just say in summary that I know we have some questions. We'd love to jump into Q&A from there. So we really, we want to view your conversations today. We want to be able to help with conversational agents to support your back office team. So we want your team to really understand holistically what's going on in the back office. We want to help set up targets and metrics for performance on specific tasks. So how are you handling compliance? How are you handling complaints? How are you handling QA? Then we want to really go off and build these automated agents to really go off and impress your customers and really help with the front end office. We can do that all today with out of the box models. And we view this as very, very fun. It's something where we're just beginning here. So, we are where Siri was 10 years ago on this venture. And we believe that there's a lot of exciting opportunities out there to solve some really cool problems. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to delight your customers. We want to be able to make conversations very, very easy, make them very, very satisfying, and ensure that everybody feels good when they get off the phone with your brand. So I will end there, and we'll open it up to Q&A, which Brett, since this is our first time, you may have to guide us through it.
Oh yeah, that's right. We'll take care of that. We've got several questions that have come in. I'll actually start you with one here. Quote, I see the trend in post-call analysis in your system. You demonstrated that. What about the real-time intervention? Do you support those use cases?
Yes, that is a great question. So what we're able to do is we call it Agent Relay, where in real time we can key off of events and then either provide that directly to call it a dashboard. Maybe it is you're monitoring compliance issues potentially, right? Where maybe somebody's talking about a lawsuit or they're going to do something. Well, then you can be alerted and figure out, do you need to jump in the call as a manager? But also what we do is we can index knowledge bases. So here's an example where a customer, international wires, don't happen very often, and different countries have their different ways of doing it. So we can listen for an international wire transfer in some country and automatically pop up to the agent the instructions to do that. So then in real time, not only can the agent decrease the call time, but then also maybe there's some compliance things that you want to monitor and get on top of them before somebody makes a complaint.
Okay, so just to clarify, so you have essentially alerting capabilities for management, is that if there's certain types of activities, conversations that are going on, you can flag those and they can determine if they intervene. But then you also have some of these tools where you're listening and you can say, you can automate the actual workflow for the contact center response. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. And I have my screen back up here. So these are alerts. So you can set up this is like a life event alert. So
right.
They must have talked about, our life event model is working. So we know that a wedding's happened, a marriage has happened, there's a baby. And what's interesting is sometimes we look for crying in the background. So we can use that as maybe there's a life event, somebody had a baby. A lot of insurance companies don't find out until they're 16 when they're getting insurance. So that life event could then pop something to the screen where the agent says, hey, we have other products for, if you just had a baby, we can set up a 529 plan or whatever it happens to be. So yes, we can do alerts in real time to the agent to be able to drive some sort of action, either reduce handle time or potentially upsell some product.
Okay, great. So there's another question here around the ASR, so the automated speech recognition system.
Yes.
The question is, which one do you use?
Yes, so we use our own. So we have a speech team and we build everything from the ground up. And what is very great about that is two things. Multiple things, but two main things. One is we can host this anywhere and we have zero limitations on our software. So we go in the cloud, we can go in somebody's private cloud. We've done on-prem stuff before for some very sensitive data. So it gives us a lot of uniqueness in the way we deploy, number one. The second thing is that long-form conversational speech is very different from what a lot of the incumbents are doing today. So if you look at it, the Googles of the world, short utterances are very important, right? So Google wants to be able for you to say, or Amazon, I want to buy this. And those are short utterances. We're talking about long-form conversational speech. So we're building ASR specifically for long-form conversational speech. So if you look at our accuracies out of the box, it's much higher than what you'll get from the incumbents. But what's also neat too is that we can go out and quickly train to do in domain, right? So there will be some business lines, some things that maybe our ASR hasn't heard. And we have a bunch of tools from, it may take 2 hours to 1 month to be able to train to get very, very high accuracy. So our customers are seeing in the 90s in production on ASR accuracy. And that's important too, because now we're trying to pull all these insights out of it. So the higher the accuracy you have, the better insight development you're going to be able to have. And your automated agents are going to be able to perform better and not have to ask you questions to clarify, because they're getting very high quality ASR.
Okay, understood. There's another question related to your tech stack, and that's around this question of which TTS vendors are you working with?
So same thing. We are building our own. So Grace is through advancements in speech synthesis. So what we've done is we have a speech synthesis team, and we build this. So what's neat for our large customers are we can take agents, their agents today, and we can make voices. So we have one customer where they selected a master agent, and instead of Grace, it's actually her voice. So it gives us a lot of ability to go out, and also too, to really have conversational agents that sound right. There's a lot of things you have to do, right? You have to, when Grace says the same sentence 5 times, there might be different inflections, because if I say the same thing 5 times, I'm going to sound a little bit different each time. And that's how you make these things sound real and like you're talking to a human. So we believe we have to own our whole tech stack to really produce very high quality agents and allow the customers to have very, very high quality interactions.
Fair enough. And I think you mentioned earlier that you can deploy on site as well as in the cloud. Is that correct?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So having your own tech stack, I suppose, is a requirement for me to do the on-premises installations.
Yeah, and let me just focus a second on the tech stack. So, to get these thousands and thousands of calls in the system, we have our own software switch we built. And that allows us to easily get your calls in from your call center, right? If it's on-prem or in the cloud. From the ASR to the emotion models that we bring to the SaaS platform that's actually built on our APIs. So all this information, some of our customers will put metadata in the system to enrich the data, but we'll also take our data out of the system to enrich their other systems like Salesforce and so forth. So our whole goal is to own the tech stack to make it very, very easy to deploy and use, but it's your data, you own the data. So you also can get data out of our system to enrich other sort of processes that you may have today.
Okay. So there's another question here. Do you offer text and chat-based channels or just call and audio channels?
Yeah, so we can ingest text. So we have customers that are sending us emails through APIs. So you miss the emotion, because the emotion component is there's companies out there that just analyze the spectrogram, and they call that sentiment, but we call it emotion because it's the words being said and how they're being said. So you miss out on some of the emotion piece on how it's being said, but we can ingest that text and run most of our analyses on that. From a connection standpoint, that's where we work with our customers, because there's a lot of, we've built our system to connect into voice very easily. And we're building out our other sort of text ingest systems to make that easier. But yeah, we take in emails, we can take in chat sessions too, and bring it all into this system.
Fair enough. Okay, so there's a couple questions about hosting. So one is on the screen you show GCP and AWS. Is the cloud provider one or the other a preferred choice? And then are there additional features, is another question, that are hosted on AWS, or is it all the same solution regardless of where you host?
Yeah, it's all the same solution. We use Kubernetes. So we selected GCP because one of our largest customers is a bank, and we have, that's what they wanted us to run in. So we're also PCI level 1 certified, we'll be HIPAA certified. We can do redaction, a lot of different stuff. So we take security very seriously. And so we can also run on Azure, but really it's any real Kubernetes-based cloud we can run on. And we don't really mention much about Microsoft right now, but by the end of the year, we'll have that up and running too for one of our customers.
Fair enough. Another question here. Do you provide knowledge management solution or just the integrations? What integrations do you have with knowledge management systems out of the box?
Yep. So right now, the knowledge bases, it's a work in progress. So the knowledge-based systems that we've had integrated into today are for large banks that are their homegrown systems. So we're just grabbing that data through APIs, but we are continuously building out different adapters for different products out there.
Okay. So next question is about language support. Are you supporting languages other than English? And they gave an example, Dutch.
Yeah, so right now, and let me click on this. Okay, cool. You'll see Evan too answering some of them as I talk on text here. But yeah, so we support right now, we support English, we support Australian English, British English, we support Spanish. It takes us about 60 to 90 days to train another language, and it's all customer driven. So for us, if there's a customer that really needs another language and it's something that makes a lot of sense, we'll go out and train for that language.
Okay, yeah, I see that Evan's been answering some of these questions in real time and not waiting for you to get to them all.
I'm reading them to make sure that I answered them correctly.
That's great. So there's another question here. Do you
I
believe
didn't know you'd start reading them, Brett. This you can see how aligned we are on all the questions this way. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. So let's share this so that everybody can answer the question. Do you believe it's appropriate to not disclose that the caller is talking to a bot that pretends it's a person? So in other words, should you disclose or should your customers disclose when they're using Grace so that the caller understands that they're talking to a bot and not a person?
Yeah, we should absolutely disclose, and we should disclose it, and people should want to talk to the bot because the bot's really good. We have a really strong view on disclosure and a strong view that the automation system that you push the customer to should be desirable and effective at resolving the task at hand. People hate IVR systems not because they're automated. They hate IVR systems because they're really bad today. And we think we can do a lot better.
And we have an interesting use case, or I think an interesting way to first deploy this. We have a customer that they're going to, when you get on hold, they're going to ask you, would you like an automated agent to try to service your request, but you won't lose your spot in line if it doesn't work. So I think that's also a good way to get customers' hands or at least used to these systems to see how great they are. And then you can just see how many customers start to opt in over time. So I think that's a great way too, where you can either sit on hold and wait or try this new system. And if it doesn't work, then you haven't really wasted any time because you'll be talking to a human once that has not happened with the automated agent.
Fair enough. So there's another question here. Do you know if there's a plan to integrate skills, for example, with Alexa to create a call center answer question Q&A instead of calling an agent? So could you tool this so that people could run this through an Alexa skill, for example? They wouldn't necessarily call the contact center, but you would handle it through this other channel.
Interesting. I mean, I'd love to know a little bit more about the current system the person has running. I mean, our view is that you really want to have a common handling system across all your endpoints. And we're very curious how it's going to play out because right now you can't have your Alexa skills interoperating with other other consumer endpoints. So, our view is that eventually those endpoints will have to make a really hard decision, whether they are walled gardens or they'll open their streams up to have other folks, provide handling. So, we're an enterprise company. We work mostly with big banks and insurance companies, and they're really scared about turning their intent brains over to cloud dinosaurs. It will be interesting to see how it all plays out. But we like to be Switzerland and provide a handling capability that puts the customer in control and is agnostic to the microphone that is providing the connection to the users.
So just to be clear, it doesn't sound like that you've done that to date, but you believe that's something
the ball's in Amazon's court, right? So, when they open up to, stream forking, we'll be right there.
Fair enough. And they do allow through their Audible division, does allow you to call customer service right from your Amazon Echo device. But that is the only option to get to the call center through the Echo at this point.
Right.
So there's another question here about whether it's possible to have a warm transfer to a live agent. So if Grace did not have an answer, how do you handle that? And so is that where they stay in line in their queue, or do you, when you figure out that Grace gets stuck, you automatically transfer to a live agent? How does that work?
Yes. So we follow the flows that the systems are set up today. So we can, some of our customers are going to do outbound sales calls where they just, do you want this new product? Yes or no. If you say yes, they're going to hand it over to a human. We'll hand it out. So that's just part of the queuing system to put that process in. And then on, success transfer or on a failure transfer. So all that is just very similar to, how an IVR system would work today.
Okay, great. And then just to clarify, that this has come up a couple of times. This question is around NLP and ML capabilities. I think you were pretty clear that that's all in-house. You're not using third party for any of that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then this idea, there's another question here. How do you design conversational strategies to get back on track after a user wanders off the happy path? How much data is required for that, since there's an infinite number of deviations?
Evan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super hard question. I would even say it's an open and ended question, and dialogue systems question. Our view is that there shouldn't be one single happy path. There are slots that have to be filled, and the difference between a VPA today, a conversational agent today, it's not really capable of handling a multi-turn interaction because it's not looking for slots, and it can't take slots and think about them in different ways and reorder them and ask for a necessary slot at different points in the conversation. So even with a slot filling strategy, you can still not get the information you need to complete the task. And in that situation, I think some of our other capabilities, like our sort of emotion analysis capability, is really useful. Because right now, if you have no idea if someone's getting mad at the IVR system, you can't really do anything about it. So, combining slot filling techniques with also, checking to see, like, is this person frustrated? Are they getting towards the target or not? Can, first of all, minimize the chance that they do get off track. And two, detect kind of when they do and steer them to a person to finish off the task. And then there's a sort of larger question of, is the task specific voice bot that you've deployed, ready for prime time? Is it robust enough for the job? And that's not just a computer science question, that's a business question, because if that bot is doing something really, really, really high stakes for the customer, you might want to have a person just there for liability reasons anyway. And you notice that today with credit card IVR flows. If you've ever paid a very, very large credit card bill, even though you're just punching in the number that you're paying, you'll be transferred to a person. So I don't think things will change in that regard. If the business requirement requires a person should be involved.
Got it. Okay, so we just have, go ahead.
Just one additional thing, that's why it's very important. Our dialogue system is not rule-based. It's all built on deep learning, using neural nets, which allows Grace to have freedom to go out and really get you back on the topic, or one of the topics that she can service, and if not, be able to nicely hand that off. And we try to order pizza when Grace just wants to give me a new debit card, and she's respectful, letting me know that, she, that's not, she can't handle that. But eventually, if you keep on doing it, she'll just transfer you to somebody. So
the place or not? I guess we don't have.
I was going to say, where are you transferred to? Another department that can fulfill your pizza needs. There's a quick question here about whether there is a dashboard, a viewer, or editor for the design of conversation flows. Do you have that in the
more on that later? We haven't announced that yet, but in the works.
Okay, so that might be coming up. There's another question about supporting a different language, Hebrew. I suppose it's, if you don't support it today, it's the same as you'd have to train the model, correct?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and it's the same. It's the same inference platform for all these different models. So no Hebrew support today. Got it.
So final question, does this replace existing contact center software? Is it incremental? Is it both?
Ooh, that's a philosophical question as much as it is a market question. I mean, our view is that the agent desktop is not going away anytime soon. We have great partnerships with agent desktops, and the next step forward is to partner the agent desktop and the agent that uses the agent desktop with something a little bit more intelligent than a Xerox machine for phone calls. So right now, the average agent desktop is hooked up to a Xerox machine. And, this year we can do a lot more than just make a copy of that call, as Brett showed you today. And we think that starts to really change the kind of desktop experience that the agent can have. And you look at, what's happening with, the folks over at Twilio. I think they're doing a tremendous job of putting that desktop experience in the hands of their customers and integrating things like Gridspace into that experience, so that when something happens on a call or when something's happening on, like in the case of Coinbase, tens of thousands of calls, that insight can be brought to the attention of the agent and ultimately facilitate the handling of the interaction.
Okay, so this has been great. I will tell everybody who's listening right now that a recording of this will be posted to voicebot.ai/webinars in the next couple of days. So you'll have access to look at this again. Ryan and Brett, would you like to tell people how to get in touch with you if they need to contact you for more information?
Sure. Yeah. If you guys want any more information, it's just brett@gridspace.com. And you can contact us, and I'd be more than happy to have a follow-on conversation. Also, if you go to www.gridspace.com, there's some material there, and we'll continue to post videos to help explain more of our path that we're on.
Brett Paulson, Evan McMillan, thank you so much for sharing the Gridspace story today and taking so much time to answer questions at the end. We'll make sure that these questions get off to everyone. So if there's additional ones that people have, we'll make sure that there's an opportunity for Gridspace to answer them. Thanks a lot, Evan and Brett.
Great. Thank you, Brett.